If you're a Turo host considering scaling your fleet and buying more vehicles, or someone that's interested in starting a car rental business, this video is going to help you avoid the worst vehicles to buy when starting or scaling your Turo business. Trust me, I've owned every single one of these vehicles, and I wish I didn't. Hey guys, it's George with Car Rental Coach. If you're looking to grow your Turo business or start a Turo business, make sure to subscribe to this channel and click the little bell so you stay notified when we make new videos and help you on your car sharing journey. We consult with clients every single day and help them build passive income through car rentals while avoiding all of the obstacles we came across while doing this ourselves. We only take on so many clients at once, so if you want to see if you qualify to work with us, go to carrentalcoach.com and fill out the 60-second survey to see if we could be a good fit to help you grow your car fleet and maximize your profits. Okay, so I did a video talking about the most profitable vehicles in my car rental fleet, but I had a lot of people ask me, what are the worst cars that you've ever owned and ones you don't recommend? So I'm not saying these are the 5 worst cars you could ever own on Turo. These are my personal 5 worst that I've owned myself that have given me so many headaches and no gray hairs, fortunately, but ones that I'm going to walk you through and why you shouldn't buy these vehicles. All right, to start off, the 5 worst vehicles I've owned in my fleet. Number 1, Dodge Journeys. Hate to say it, my dad owned a Durango, my mom owned a Journey, and I actually liked the vehicles until I started renting these cars. So I've gone through 3 different Journeys, so I don't think this is just a one-time issue. It's a consistent one. And each single one of these cars had transmission issues. And they weren't that high of miles. The one only had 60,000 miles on it, was a 2013, and ended up having transmission issues after only 6 months on the road. The other 2 also had transmission issues within a year. I'm not sure why this model has these problems. I'm not sure if anybody else has experienced issues with Dodge Journeys, but the ones that I've owned have all had to get a new transmission. And on the 3rd one, instead of replacing the transmission, we ended up just taking it to auction and selling it at a loss, letting everybody know there was a transmission issue, because I didn't want to put thousands more into cars that I was only purchasing for $6,000 and less. It didn't make any sense. So I highly recommend avoiding Dodge Journeys, even though I kind of liked them until I rented them. All right, number 2. This is an interesting one. Ford Fiestas. So I like Ford Fiestas that are 2017 or newer, and I have a few of those in my fleet that have been great earners and done extremely well for us. But vehicles that are 2015 and older in the Ford Fiesta range, I do not recommend. I've had transmission issues with them. I've had multiple engine codes with them. Evap leaks specifically aren't that costly to fix, but these cars have thrown every code in the book at me. I didn't understand what was going on, taking them to many mechanics. Could be because people like to drive them a little faster because they're built like little race cars that cause these issues, but I just don't recommend using them. I've put too much money into the 2014 and 2013 models to ever recommend them to anybody on the Car Rental Coach channel. Stay away from them. If you can get your hands on a 2017 or newer, go for it. I recommend them. I still rent them and they do extremely well, but those 2014s for some reason have evap leaks, engine codes, they fire off weirdly. Just not something I would put in my fleet at this point. All right, number 3, worst cars I've ever put into my fleet. I had a GMC Sierra. I like trucks. My logic was, okay, if I get a pickup truck, maybe I could rent it for a higher premium. People might use it to move, and I could maybe charge $70 to $80 a day for this 2012 vehicle. Well, that wasn't the case. I was only able to get around $55 to $60 a day, which wasn't much more money than I could rent like a Mitsubishi Mirage for, even though this car was substantially more expensive because, it's a truck. And the thing I didn't realize when renting the truck was I knew people were going to use it to move. I didn't realize how rough people were going to be with it. I thought, yeah, maybe people would just put some furniture in it. They'd, treat it like a halfway decent human being, have a little bit of respect for my property. That wasn't the case. This car came back with so many dings, dents in the flatbed. And the problem was that it was under my deductible I used because I used the 80-20 plan. It didn't make sense to turn them in every single time there was a nick or something wrong with the car. So they ended up beating this car badly. The truck bed was destroyed after only like 10 rentals. And the car just didn't make sense to rent financially with the cost I had into it and how rough people were with it. So I have looked into getting into the van business and renting vans for moving. This definitely discouraged me from going that route because I didn't realize how rough people would actually be with it. I'm not saying that a truck can't work on Turo. I'm just saying that I'm not going to rent a truck on Turo ever again. I'm going to stick with my economy cars that are great on gas, not going into the truck routes because at the end of the day, it didn't make me much more money. It cost me money in damages. I was still able to sell the car for a profit because we make sure we buy all of our cars correctly so we can sell them for a profit even after depreciation and wear and tear. But like I said, the truck was abused, used, and don't recommend it. Wouldn't do it again. Okay, number 4 on my list. These cars are hit and miss. So Nissan Sentras. The Nissan Sentras I've had have either been the best cars I've ever had on the platform or the worst. The newer models are actually pretty nice and don't have issues. When you're dealing with 2014s and 2015s, that's where I've noticed more major problems with the cars. So these ones, again, transmission issues. I've had transmission issues in 2 out of the 5 that I've had. Those were both the older models. Transmissions are at least cheaper to get fixed and replaced in these vehicles than a lot of cars, but still, when you're spending like $1,000 to $2,000, it takes out so much of your profit on these vehicles that it doesn't make sense to even do it. So I don't recommend those models for that reason when it comes to transmission issues. And another weird problem they both had, like the 2 that had issues, the heat went out in both of them. I don't think those problems were related after speaking to a mechanic. And I've looked up these years and they seem to have heating and cooling problems. So when you're dealing with heat not working and transmissions not working in 2 out of the 5 that I've owned, I wouldn't recommend them, especially to a new host. Like sure, if you're able to get these at an extraordinary deal, say you're only paying a couple grand, maybe $4,000 for one, sure, put it on the platform, see what you can do, but make sure you have some money in the bank in case anything goes wrong. All right, and I saved the worst for last. This is by far the worst vehicle I've ever rented on Turo. A 2013 Chevy Equinox. Why was it the worst car? Well, let me tell you something about these old Equinoxes. They burn oil. I've check my fluids on my vehicles every single time they come back. I learned the hard way with the Chevy Equinoxes when, after the first rental, the car came back bone dry on oil. We thought, maybe this was just some issue with the fluids not being checked beforehand. So, filled the car back up with oil, had it taken to make sure there were no leaks. There were no leaks, nothing was found to be wrong with it by a mechanic. Goes out on another trip and returns bone dry, but this time when we cranked the engine, it doesn't sound right. The engine was completely blown. We ended up taking a huge loss on this vehicle, and after doing some research, I saw that the 2012-2013 models are notorious for burning oil. So I don't recommend buying one. You know, if you're taking a car out for only a 3 to 4 day trip and it's burning oil that fast that you're putting in, a whole container, a whole liter, don't do it. It's not going to be profitable. It's going to cause you stress, headaches, and possibly a blown engine like I had. So just stay away from it. So really what I've noticed with my cars and the ones that perform the best are usually foreign cars. I'm American. I hire American employees. I try to keep my other businesses all American. But when it comes to vehicles, American-made cars don't seem to do very well on Turo. That's just my personal experience. I've had hosts that have told me the opposite. I'm just being honest with my own experiences in this video. So I tend to not go American anymore because that's where I found the most headaches with my fleet. All right, well, there you have it. Those are the 5 worst cars and the reason I have nightmares at night. I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad, and I ended up not losing that much money when you look at the whole combined portfolio of these bad cars. But still, I don't recommend them unless you're getting extremely good deals on them, or if you're an established host that has money in the bank to pay for these repairs. But if you're somebody starting out or just don't like the headaches of the car industry, I don't recommend any of these models or makes. That's just me though, and somebody else might have a completely different experience. If you want to learn about the top 5 most profitable vehicles in my fleet, click this video right here.